Welcome to Read Long and Out Loud with Grit, and today I'll be reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Chapter 2. 3 old ladies knit the socks of death. I was used to the occasional weird experience, but usually they were over quickly. This 24/7 hallucination was more than I could handle. For the rest of the school year, the entire campus seemed to be playing some sort of trick on me. The students acted as if there was never, ever a Mrs. Dawson. There was always a Mrs. Kerr, a perky blonde woman who I've never seen in my life until she got on our bus at the end of the field trip. Had been our pre-Albert teacher since Christmas. Every so often, I would spring a Mrs. Dot's reference on somebody to see if I could trip them up, but they would just stare at me like if I was just some crazy eye. It got so I almost believed them. Mrs. Dodds had never existed. Almost. But Grover couldn't fool me. When I mentioned the name Mrs. Dodds to him, he would hesitate and claim she didn't exist. But I knew he was lying. Something was going on. Something had happened at the museum. I didn't have much time to think about it during the days, but at night the visions of Mrs. Dodds with chowns and the leathery wings would take me up in a cold sweat. The freak weather continued, which didn't help any of my mood. One night, thunderstorm blew out the windows in my dorm room. A few days later, the biggest tornado ever, spotted in the Houston Valley, touched down only 50 miles away from the Yancey Academy. One of the current events we studied in social studies class was the unusual number of small planes that had gone down in sudden seagulls in the Atlantic that year. I started to feel cranky and irritated most of the time. My grades have slipped from D's to F's. I got in more fights with Nancy Bobofit and her friends. I was sent out in the hallway in almost every class. Finally, when our English teacher, Mrs. Nicole, asked me for the millionth time why I was too lazy to study for spelling tests, I snapped. I called him an old snot. I'm not sure what it even meant, but it sounded good. The headmaster sent my mom home a letter the following week making it official. I would not be invited back next year to Yancey Academy. Fine, I told myself, just fine. I was homesick. I wanted to be with my mom in our little apartment in the Upper East. Even I had to go to public school with my obnoxious stepfather and his stupid poker parties. And yet, there were things I would miss at Yancey. The view of the woods outside my dorm window, the Hudson River in the distance, the smell of pine trees, and Miss Grover, of course, who had been a good friend even though he was a little strange. I worried how he'd survive the next year without me. I missed Latin class too, Mr. Brunner's crazy tournament days, and his faith that I would do well. As exam week got closer, Latin was the only class I studied for. I hadn't forgotten what Mr. Brunner told me about the subject being life and death for me. I wasn't sure why, but I started to believe him. That evening before my final, I got so frustrated I threw the Cambridge Guide to Greek Mythology across my dorm room. The words just started swimming off the page, circling in my head. The letters started doing 180s as if they were riding skateboards. There was no way I was going to remember the difference between Charon and Charon, or Polydix, or Polydeuces. And all those Latin verbs, forget it. I paced the room, feeling like ants were crawling around inside my shirt. I remembered Mr. Brunner's serious expression, his 1,000-year-old eyes. I will only accept the best from you, Percy Jackson. I took a deep breath, and I picked up the mythology book. I never asked the teacher for help before. Maybe if I talked to Mr. Brunner, he could give me some pointers. I walked downstairs to the facility offices. Most of them were dark and empty, but Mr. Brunner's was wide open, light streaking from his window, stretching across the hallway floor. I was 3 steps from the door handle when I heard voices inside the office. I heard Grover in there, so he was probably in there. But I heard Grover said, "Worried about Percy, sir. I froze. Usually not an eavesdropper, but I dare you to try not listening if you hear your best friend talking about you to an adult. I inched closer. Oh, in the summer, Grover was saying. I mean, a kindly one in the school. Now we know for sure, and they know too, that would only make matters worse by rushing him, Mr. Brunner said. We need the boy to mature more, but he may not have time. The summer socialist deadline will resolve without him, Grover. Let him enjoy his ignorance while he still can. Sir, he saw her. His imagination, Mr. Brunner said. The mist over the students and the staff will be enough to convince him of that. Sir, I can't fail in my duties again. Grover's voice choked with emotion. You know what would happen if I did. You haven't failed, Grover, Mr. Brunner said kindly. I should have seen her for what she was. Now let's just worry about keeping Percy alive until next fall. The mythology book dropped out of my hand and hit the floor with a thud. Mr. Brunner went silent. My heart started hammering. I was sure it was going to burst out of my stomach like the aliens when a scorpion thing snatches on to somebody's face. A shadow slid across the lead glass of Mr. Brunner's office door. The shadow of something much taller than my wheelchair-bound teacher. Something looking suspiciously like an archer's bow. I opened the nearest door and slipped inside. A few seconds later, I heard a slow clop, 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 like muffled wood blocks, and the sound of an animal snuffing outside my door. A large dark shape paused in front of my glass, and then moved on. A bead of sweat trickled down my neck. Somewhere in the hallway, Mr. Brunner spoke of nothing, he murmured. My nerves haven't been right since this winter socialist. Mine either, Grover said. But I could have sworn. Go back to your dorm, Mr. Brunner told him. You have a long day of exams tomorrow. Don't remind me. The lights went out in Mr. Brunner's office. I waited in the dark, and what seemed like forever, I finally slipped out in the hallway, made my way back up to the dorm. Grover was lying on the bed studying his Latin exam notes like he'd been there all night. Hey, he said, blurry-eyed. You gonna be ready for this test? I didn't answer. You looked awful, he frowned. Is everything okay? Just tired. The next afternoon, I was leaving for the 3-hour Latin exam. My eyes were swimming with all the Greek and Roman names I misspelled, and Mr. Burnham called me back inside. For a moment, I was worried that he found out my eavesdropping the night before. That didn't seem to be the problem. Percy, he said, don't be discouraged about leaving the Yancey. It's for the best. His tone was kind, but his words still embarrassed me. Even though he was speaking quietly, the other kids who finished the test could hear. I mumbled, okay, sir. I mean, Mr. Brunner wheeled his chair back and forth like he wasn't sure what to say. This isn't the right place for you. It's only a matter of time. My eyes stung. Here was my favorite teacher in front of the whole class telling me I couldn't handle it. After saying he believed in me all year long, now he was telling me I was destined to get kicked out. Right, I said, trembling. No, Mr. Brunner said. Oh, co-founded it all. What I'm trying to say is, you're not normal, Percy. That's nothing to be. Thanks, I blurted. Thanks a lot, sir, for reminding me. Percy, but I was already gone. A bunch of kids were talking about what they're going to do over the summer outside the class. But they're all rich juvenile delinquents. Unlike me, of course I was a juvenile delinquent. But I'm not a rich juvenile delinquent. They asked me what I was doing for this summer, and I told them I was going back for the city. I didn't tell them that I had to get a summer job, walking dogs or selling magazine subscriptions, and spend my free time worrying about where to go to school in the fall. The only person I dreaded saying goodbye to was Grover, but as it turned out, I didn't have to. He booked a ticket to Manhattan on the same Greyhound that I had. And there we were, together again, heading to the city. During the whole bus ride, Grover kept glancing nervously down the aisle, watching the other passengers. It occurred to me that he had always acted nervous and fidgety when we left Yancey, as if he expected something bad to happen. Before, I always assumed that he was worried about something, like he was getting teased, but there was nobody to tease him on the Greyhound. Finally, I couldn't stand anymore. Looking for the kindly ones, Grover nearly jumped out of his seat. What? How do you know that? What do you mean? I confessed about eavesdropping on him. Grover's eyes twitched. How much did you hear? Oh, not much. What's the summer socialist deadline? He winced. Look, Percy, I was just worried for you. See, hallucinating about the demon math teacher's Grover. And I was telling Mr. Burnham that maybe you were overstressed or something. Because there's no such person as Mrs. Dott's aunt. Grover, you're a really bad liar. His ears turned pink. From his shirt pocket, he took out a grubby business card. Just take this, okay? In case you need this for summer. And then it said this. Grover Underwood, keeper. Half-Blood Hill, Long Island, New York. 800-009-0009. What's half? Don't say it out loud, he yelped. That's my, summer address. My heart sank. Grover had a summer home. I never considered that his family might be as rich as the other at the Yancey. Okay, I said glumly. So, if you want me to come visit your mansion, he nodded, or if you need me. How would I need you? That came out harsher than it kind of meant. Grover blushed right down to Adam's apple. Look, Percy, the truth is, I kind of have to protect you. I stared at him. All year long, I got in fights, keeping boys away from him. I lost sleep worrying that he'd get beaten up next year without me. Here was acting like he was the one defending me. Grover, what exactly are you protecting me from? There was a huge grinding noise under our feet. Black smoke poured out of the dashboard and the whole bus filled with smell like rotten eggs. The driver cursed and limped the Greyhound over the side of the highway. After a few minutes clanking around the engine compartment, the driver announced that we'd all have to get off. Grover and I filed outside along with everybody else. It was a stretch of the country road, no place you'd notice if you didn't break down there. On our side of the highway, there was nothing but maple trees and litter and passing cars. On the other side were 4 lanes of asphalt shimmering with afternoon heat. It was an old-fashioned fruit stand. The stuff on sale looked pretty good. Heaping boxes of bloody cherries and apples, walnuts, apricots, jugs of cider, and a clawfoot tub full of ice. There were no customers, just 3 old ladies sitting on rocking chairs, shade of an maple tree, knitting the largest pair of socks I've ever seen in my life. The size of these socks were the size of sweaters. But they were clearly socks. The lady on the right knitted one of them, the lady on the left knitted another, and the lady in the middle held a ginormous basket of electric blue yarn. All 3 women looked ancient, with pale faces wrinkled like fruit leather. Silver hair tied on the back of their bandanas, bony arms sticking out of the bleached cotton dresses. The weirdest thing was, they seemed to be looking right at me. I looked over at Grover to say something about this, and I saw the blood drain from his face. His nose was twitching. Grover? Hey man, tell me they're not looking at you. They are, aren't they? Yeah. Weird, huh? You think all those socks would fit me? Not funny, Percy. Not funny at all. The old lady in the middle took out a huge pair of scissors. Gold and silver, long bladed like shears. I heard Grover catch his breath. We're getting on the bus. He told me, come on. What? It's like 1,000 degrees in there. Come on, he pried open the door, climbed inside, but I stayed back. Across the road, the old ladies were still watching me. No one cut the yarn. I could swear I heard this snip across 4 lanes of traffic. Her 2 friends balled up the electric blue socks, leaving me wondering who they possibly could be working for. Godzilla or King Kong? the rear of the bus, the driver wrenched a huge chunk of smoking metal out of the engine compartment. The bus shuddered, and the engine roared back to life. The passengers cheered. "Darn right," yelled the driver, and slapped the bus with his hat. "Everybody back on board." Once we got going, I started feeling feverish, as if I caught the flu. Grover didn't look much better. He was shivering and his teeth were chattering. "Grover? Yeah? What are you not telling me?" He dabbed his forehead with his shirt sleeve. "Percy, what did you see back there at the fruit stand? You mean the old ladies? What about the man? I mean, they're not like Mrs. Dots, are they?" His expression was hard to read, but I got the feeling that the fruit stand ladies were something much, much worse than Mrs. Dots. He said, "Just tell me what you saw." The middle one took out her scissors. She cut the yarn. He closed his eyes and made a gesture with his fingers that might have been crossing himself, but it wasn't. It was something else, something almost older. He said, "You saw her snip the cord?" "Yeah, so?" But even as I said it, I knew it was a big deal. "This is not happening," Grover mumbled. He started chewing his thumb. I don't want this to be like the last time." "What last time?" "Always 6th grade. They never get past 6th. "Grover," I said, because he was really starting to scare me. "What are you talking about?" "Let me walk you home from the bus station. Promise me." That would seem like the strangest request ever to me, but I promised he could. "Is this like superstition or something?" No answer. "Grover, that's the beginning of the yarn. Does that mean somebody's going to die?" He looked at me mournfully. He was already picking the kind of flowers I like best on my coffin. And that's the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, reading opens your mind. And thank you for watching and listening. See you next time.